Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again. You know, it was something absolutely fantastic about what happened in Tennessee. Absolutely fantastic. We saw a racist legislator in the state legislatures that's racist. And what does that say? It says that they are all over the country. The signs of the racism is that couple of people of color who are not respected when it comes down to race happen to have been there by their constituents as this is what we choose to represent us, and they got there and all of a sudden something happened that gave them purpose. There was a murderer, someone walking around filled with so much evil that they wanted to kill. And on this particular day, they were killing children, and they happened to have been killing children in Tennessee. And the people were trying to get the legislators to address this cause. But we know that in America, the number one reason for living is to have a wonderful time, which requires that you have a lot of money. And so those who are connected with these guns make money off it. And so they will do anything they possibly can to keep on making money so they can have a wonderful time, even if it means that you get killed at the supermarkets, you get killed at church, you get killed at the beach, you get killed at a party, you get killed at school, you get killed at home. It's okay as long as they can sell the guns. And the guns make big bucks. And they got politicians who are causing and feeding into so much hate and so much racism and ugliness till, hey, they're going to probably make gewgaws of money. At least that's what they're thinking. And I'm so proud of the brothers, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Young men remind me of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King back in the day. 23, 28 years old. Young men out there on the battlefield, standing up with those kids, standing up with those parents that says, yes, guns and stuff might be needed here and there, but we as a people can live better than this, and we want to make you hears. Why do we want to make you hears? Because you closed your ears. You don't want to give us that attention. And so we want you to know exactly how we feel about it. And so if we got to come here and do what we do, then we do it. And they did, and it brought out the ugliness in them. And then you saw the people respond, and I think that's a great thing, because not only are people going to be responding to this right here, they're going to be responding to that all over this country. You better believe it, because it is ugly. It is evil. It is demonic to act that way. You know, and having said that, again, I want to thank these young men for just standing up. It's just begun. It's not over. No. Hate, no. You have to go in levels of this. This is just the first round. But what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is a sign to all of those who are familiar with how times are requiring us to respond. Times are calling on us to take the necessary action to eliminate the pains that's causing the problems, that's causing the suffering, that's causing the sicknesses among we the people. And I'm not just talking about people of color. I'm talking about all people. And when I say all, I'm not just talking about America. I'm not just talking about Mexico. I'm not just talking about Central and South America. I'm talking about people all over the globe where pain and suffering is. I'm sure if there's a God anywhere, if there's a power anywhere that cares about anybody that's in pain and sickness, how can they separate and be just for some and not the rest? This is why we call it that magnificent power beyond the power that we have to endure. I'm reminded that when the struggle was back in the 60s, people responded. They didn't know any better. To us, we were standing up for what was righteous. We, meaning people of color. We were standing up for justice. We were standing up for compassion and righteousness. Let's just say righteousness. And anybody who would stand against righteousness, because we associated righteousness with God, anybody that stood against God was the devil. And so Malcolm just called white people the devil. Martin didn't go for that too much. But if you look at the videos of the things that were happening back there in the 60s, if you looked at the videos of Bull Connor, if you looked at the videos of the fire hydrants and hoses and the dogs and the lynchings, the pictures of the lynchings and stuff, if you look back and saw that, you'd have to say the devil was doing it. You'd have to say the devil was doing it, because any people with any kind of empathy, any kind of love or compassion in their heart would never do that to another individual. So if Malcolm was calling the devil, Martin says they just misguided. They didn't know any better, and they had to be taught by forcing them to show all their ugliness so they can see the ugliness, let it sit, slap them back in the face. And by doing that, they got a chance to pass a few laws, but they didn't get rid of the hate, the aching pain that people have, the evilness that's embedded in their soul. They didn't get rid of that. As we could tell when Donald Trump came along and set it loose. And boy, is it burning. My point that I'm trying to make, ladies and gentlemen, is that these young men of today, there was a situation going on that's getting attention. It's an emergency. It's life and death. People are being killed every day. This is immediate. We don't have time to put this off. So in one way, these guys in America have been blessed because it's been happening for so long, and now finally. But there was a time back in those days, in the 60s, when it was just living, just getting out of slavery, just having a voice was so important, just as important. And many people died for that. Many people died and gave their lives for that, which is the foundation for which these young brothers were able to stand on the other day. And yet, that evil monster that's always been prevalent in the society spoke out, had a problem with it. But apparently, a nicer voice rose to the occasion. I heard that was Easter not too long ago, and that Easter represented the resurrection. And it is time we have a true resurrection, not this here phony stuff, not the stuff that you can go and gerrymander, not this old phony stuff where you can go and stick a crook in the United States Supreme Court or in the White House or anywhere. No, not these decisions. We need to have real legislation, ladies and gentlemen. Legislation that is not penned, but legislation that comes from the heart. Legislation that tells you the truth and causes you to want to live according to that truth and are willing to express that truth in your dealing with others. I have spent much time telling you, for some strange reason, somebody gave a man the information to make a Tesla, whatever these cars are that everybody's talking about. People are excited about it. Talking about SpaceX, they gave them the knowledge and skills and whatever it takes to be able to go up in space and do all the wonderful things that they do in space. Came back, and if we want to go back a little bit further just to show you how significant it is, they gave somebody the knowledge about dealing with electric lights. And here we are today, looking like we can't do without them. Planes that came from just driving little cars. All of this knowledge has been given to the people through individuals, and people have responded, and these are the things that we do because of that information. And to me, one of the greatest pieces of information that anybody can be given is how to live on this earth as though you're in heaven. And for some strange reason, I don't know why, I was given that information. I was given that information that every individual could exercise. And when they're thinking about going to some place that's so absolutely fantastic, they could actually put their hands to the plow and create that place that's as wonderful as they can ever dream of. I was given that information, but it wasn't just that information that was given. I brought that information back to you, and I've spent 40 years telling you that information. For 40 years, you have ignored it. But it was a little, I delivered it a traditional way. I didn't actually utilize the media because I don't have any money. And money is not a tool that God used to do the thing that God does. That's a tool of somebody else that's trying to manipulate, control, and exploit you. So the way I could do it was just to write flyers, speak on street corners, if I could speak in a church, do that kind of stuff. But then I got the inspiration to try to put it on a national platform, to run for president of the United States as a candidate who would speak to the American people and tell them, I bring to you a plan to create heaven on earth. What do I mean by that? You know what I mean. If you don't, check out some of those other videos because it takes a minute and I don't want to waste that time here because you can check another one. And so I give this information. What do I expect? I expect to come to you the same way I've been coming on radio. I had a little radio program called Moment of Truth. Come to you when I speak at a church gathering or when I'm speaking on the street corners or whatever little rally we could get, which was just a few people here and there speaking in community groups. But when I announced that I wanted to run for be your president with this information, I knew that you weren't going to just jump at it because who am I in your eyes? I'm just a black person who you don't know nothing about. I just can't come in and tell you stuff like Trump because he was white. He can get away with it. But me, black, I couldn't. So my plan was to get the same kind of attention that he got. I expected you, I didn't have any money. I expected to mention it to you. And I expected you to be glad and happy about it and start spreading the news. I expected you to call your co-workers, call your family, your friends, call everybody you know, telling them to do the same thing. I expected you to go to church if you were still going, to tell everybody, get that message out there. God has finally sent us one that's going to show us how to get out of this hell we've been in. We ain't been able to pay our rent. We've been struggling our whole lives. I declare, and now God has given us a man with a plan that he can show it to us before he get in office. And it can't go through unless we help him do it. So we know it's going to go because we got our hands to it. Hey, how can you lose with a plan like that? But did you jump on and tell anybody about it? No. I guess it sounded ludicrous to you. It sounded completely stupid. But it was so real to me, I engaged myself and committed crimes just to get your attention. Say, hey, look, I do this because I know what I'm telling you is true. You listen to this, and even if you don't buy it, I do the time because it's just that important to me. Yeah, you didn't get the message. I did the time. Why? Because it was that important to me. Now I want to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. In these 40 years that I've been out here, I've only worked a couple of times. I made a few books. And when I made a few books, I mean few books, I wasn't trying to make no big books. Because when you make big books, sometimes you can get a little sidetracked. You start thinking about, ooh, I can do this, I can do that, because you got the big books. You ain't got no books, you know what that tells you. And so every now and then, a couple of times at least, I even worked at Bethel University in Minnesota. I worked not for Bethel, but I worked at food service. I was a dishwasher. And the reason I chose dishwashing because they were only paying $6 an hour. And you know I wasn't thinking about that. But it gave me a chance to get around the students. It gave me a chance to advertise. It gave me a chance to tell the students about what my vision was and why. And so I did that and for a time. Then the co-workers were upset because they were making no money. Times are tight. People are going through all kinds of changes, and you get a raise, it's 10 cents. And here I am talking about the plan of heaven on earth. Here I am talking about this great God who has given me this information, and all I got to do is give this information to the people in such a way that they could translate it into an action. Now, I was giving it to them, but apparently I wasn't giving it to them in the form that they could see it, hear it, and decide they want to translate it into action, because they definitely weren't doing that. So there were a couple of occasions. I worked for another company once, and I was dealing with money because I collect money and I pass it on to the boss. When I mean boss, I'm talking about the people who I work for. And so one time I decided not to give it to them. And I told them that I wasn't giving it to them because I had to represent you, the people who are suffering, and I took the money and do whatever I wanted with it. And I want them to arrest me. And so they didn't want to, but they arrested me. And I did this again. So you can know this is what I call a gospel. Liberation. I call it the gospel, the real gospel that I can understand today. It might be a little confusing back there, but today I can understand it. So and the thing that really got me, ladies and gentlemen, when this thing started off, I was kind of much younger. I was married, and when I started getting this vision about change for people who needed change, that didn't go too well with that wife, so she decided that that was not what she bargained for. And so she left, and that was cool. I didn't like it really, but I could do nothing about it. But I got blessed and got another wife. I don't know why, but for some strange reason, I envisioned that She and I were going to have a fantastic life. Why? Because, hey, I had the information about heaven. I had the information about heaven. And I'm coming here to Minnesota, I'm leaving Mississippi or Chicago now. And I'm going to share this information. How can people resist? So anything that we ever dreamed that we could live when we were kids, when you were kids, all those things you envisioned, now they were going to happen for you because I was going to share with you the secret of how to get it to happen. And so when I told her, don't worry about it, I'm going to take care of you. You'll never have to worry about anything. I meant that from the depths of my heart. But I walked out here in a world of people wasn't thinking about God or anything else like that. Shocked me. And for 40 years, other than a couple of times I had that little job making $6 an hour or had that job that I quit, I've just been out here trying to share this news with you. And this great woman that I got married to for 40 years, she has done her vision was not this thing that I do. She was just like everybody else. Custom to the way the world is, dreaming and ambitious how to put her knowledge and live. Just like you. But here I am, dreaming. Now, in order for my dream to come true, that got to stop. I can't get you to stop, and I'm not going to try to get you to stop unless it happens automatic. But for me, I have stopped. And so for 40 years, she's carried the ball by herself. Sometimes I feel so sad about it. Not that I didn't help, because in order for me to help, I had to commit myself to doing something that God told me was wrong. But I couldn't change anybody else's mind. I couldn't make the thing different. I couldn't bring any relief to the situation. And so any money that was spent for anything, food, clothing, shelter, education, rent, gas, transportation, vacation, anything that money was spent for, she did it. So I can't take nothing from her. She might not want me to tell you that, but she was God sent. Now, but after 40 years, even when the Hebrew children went out to looking for the promised land, 40 years was long enough. So 40 years, you have not changed in any form or fashion as far as this earth changing and becoming paradise. And so it just would be ludicrous for me to try to stay in this situation knowing that I can't quit. As long as I'm around, I'm going to be trying to shine the light that God has given me. But I don't have the right to impose a continuation of this kind of life on her, especially if she doesn't want it. And I definitely should have walked away a long time ago when I found out, but I didn't find out. I'm still hoping that you will break in and let the spirit of love come in. But until that happens, I want you to do this. I just shared with you about this situation where a person will commit themselves to do what she did, to make sure that what she understood as the way of life, get a job, make your money, and spend it as you have been given amounts. I want you to think about that. You heard it. You know what I'm talking about. And then I want you to think about me committing everything to something else that you can't see and really doing nothing that you can see for the people that's here. What do you see in that analogy? I would appreciate it if you would respond in the comments or whatever, because for me, I only see it one way. I see it as long as you take something, you're going to get it. And when you decide that it's over, it's over. The young men in Tennessee, and those kids' parents, and those teachers, they've been doing everything they possibly can to cause something to happen and hadn't. So they took a different path. They tried something outside of the box. It might be in the box a little bit. But they tried that, and it's causing something to happen. But until they did that, it was nothing, just like across the country. People are complaining, but they're doing nothing. They're complaining, and nothing is happening. They're just making it more accessible for people to have instruments of destruction. Nothing, getting no relief coming. And when it comes down to the pain and suffering that people go through every day, I don't care. You got a little, they talked about a $15 hour or something. What does that mean when you come down, your gas prices jumped up $2 or $3 more a gallon? What does that mean? It doesn't mean a dead blasted thing when everything is going up. And I'm still here today with that same plan that works in heaven and work right here. If you deserve it, you'll know it. And the reason you don't know it is because you don't deserve it. Now, that is not a put down. When I say you don't deserve it, you don't know anything about it. How many of you Americans can speak several different languages? You don't have any information about that. You don't know how to do that. You not haven't been exposed to that. And that's the way. You have not been exposed to the way of God's living. When one of the worst things that could have ever happened to America and people of the West, and wherever Christianity is, and they use a Bible, is they put a picture in there of a man, and the man was white. That's one of the worst things they could have ever done, is put a picture in there. Anyway, my stomach is hurting right now, and I'm going to go ahead and take a break. I know this isn't over, and I'll be back. But ladies and gentlemen, please respond to what I asked. Evaluate that analogy that I just shared with you. This fantastic woman against a man who calls himself serving God. What do you see? Please respond. Thank you.